right, we are back with another episode of The Elite Show produced by MSCS Media, and today is Abducted by Aliens.
Yeah, this is a credible story.
I saw you pause there for a second.
Because I'm thinking back when I first heard this story, I was a kid, and my son Matt and me, we used to talk about when I was in prison. We bonded a lot about, because, he was born in 96. And this story happened in 1975. So obviously he heard a lot of it from me talking about different stories. And I had dinner with Travis. So, I met him and I actually sat down with him and had dinner. And I was amazed with his story prior to meeting him.
Yeah, so explain who Travis Walton is. I mean, we know, if you don't know, he got abducted by aliens, according to him.
Well, it's crazy. People know there's UFOs and there's things going on because our own government people, airplane, ships, pilots, not just some crazy person who's a citizen that people say, well, I don't believe it. Well, do you believe it when it's a Navy warship that it's on the radar and they took pictures of it? So now how do you not believe it? How do you not believe it when they're declassifying information from this government now? And there's a lot of government officials, not just in this country, in other countries, at the UK, that are involved in admitting that, as national security, head of national security, one of the guys in the UK is also coming out and saying they have information where this stuff is real.
Well, it's odd that they're coming out with all of this now, between Bob Lazar, Travis Walton, the tic-tac-toe, everything else. But back to Travis Walton. So he was in Arizona, right? And he was out there, and then he saw a light come down.
What happened was he was with 6 guys, I believe, maybe 7, but 6. And the driver of the truck was this guy, Mike Rogers. And they're loggers, these guys. So they were leaving, and as they're leaving, they see light in their, I believe it was in their rearview mirror, and they stop, and they're all talking to each other, and some of them didn't want to turn around. But Travis did want to turn around, so they end up turning around, and nobody ran out of the truck but Travis. So he ran towards the ship, thinking, he wanted to get a better look. I think I would do the same thing. I think so many of us are so curious that you really, you remember that movie with Tom Cruise when they come down and,
yeah, well, everybody really wants to know, you know what I mean?
So he approaches the ship, and he's abducted. And, the other 6 guys in the truck take off. When they see him abducted, they're scared, and they take off, but then they do come back. I guess they're all arguing with each other, and then Mike Rogers, and actually Travis speaks up for his friends and says, they were heroes for coming back. And Mike Rogers is more of a humble guy, and he says, I don't see myself as a hero. I left you. And he said, well, anybody would have initially left. I was the idiot that chased the ship. But they did come back from, which really is, unique, especially with friendships. They came back. But they go back into town when Travis is abducted, and he's missing for about 5.5 days. And the people in the town believe that these 6 guys either killed him or they did something with him. And, so there was a big investigation. And they were all brought into different rooms, and they were questioned by local law enforcement. Later on, NSA got involved and the FBI, and they all were lie detector tested.
Yeah, so I was going to say, he did polygraphs,
polygraphs. They all did.
And he passed them all.
Yes. There was one polygraph that came back not...
it was false positive.
Yeah, and it was the only one. But the odds of being multi-polygraphed by men that are not highly intelligent, just average guys that are loggers, nobody special that has training and trying to beat these lie detector tests, that they all came back and passed. Not one time or 2 times, numerous times, that these guys were telling the truth. So when they went into the town, everybody believed they killed him. Nobody believed anything different, or they put his body somewhere and were holding him as hostage so they were investigated thoroughly through everything.
Yeah, and one of the things he said in the article was, he said that, everybody thinks that we should be afraid of a UFO or aliens. And he said there's nothing to be afraid of. He said in the article that they're just doing research like we are. But when we have, weapons pointed at them, in case they do come, it creates a conflict. I mean, if you do believe that they're there, and I do believe that they're there.
Well, I happen to have the fortune of meeting him and having dinner with him and spending 4 hours with him. So I do shows in the past with JohnRicciuti and this woman, Jill, who do documentaries. They did one on the drug industry in Kensington that I got involved with that won all kinds of awards. So these people became friendly with me. I was doing business with them. I'm on different shows on YouTube with them. And they were doing something with Travis. And we had an event for him in Philadelphia. And after the event, we all went to dinner. And I said, no. When they were sitting everybody down, I go, Travis, come here. You're sitting with me. And, he knew who I was. He knew I was known as a gangster and I was in prisons and I was doing shows and everything. So, we got a kick out of talking to each other. And he was just a regular guy. He wasn't a guy looking for notoriety. Actually, the opposite. A lot of these guys think that, when Travis and his friends got in trouble, they didn't try to sell the story. They didn't want anything. They were humble. They tried to stay away from it. So they didn't want the limelight. So it wasn't done for money like most people say, they were probably just trying to make money. They weren't. They actually shied away from that. So this is years later now that they finally coming out and doing this.
Well, it's the same thing like they did with Bob Lazar. But with him, when you met him and you see him and he comes and sits like across from you, what's his personality like? Well, what is there anything different about him that you saw sitting next to him basically than you would from any other Joe Schmo?
Yeah. He was a nice guy, but he was a little off, honestly. He seemed like he was a little in the distance. And not because he was sitting there and overwhelmed with the notoriety in the crowd. It was just like he was a little in the distance.
Like cloudy?
Cloudy, exactly. That's a good word for it. And a gentleman, very articulate, just a regular dude. But when I asked him 100 questions, I didn't stop.
What'd you ask him? Tell
questions.
Me. What'd you ask?
I said, when they took you, what do you remember? And he says, I remember being on a table. And I remember I was thinking, and I knew they could understand what I was thinking. And they were talking without talking, and they weren't opening their mouths. And he says, I seen other people on tables. And I tried to reach them, and he says, and I got up at one time. And then they brought me back. And he goes, and, I wasn't really scared, but they operated on me. He says, and, but I couldn't really feel. I felt pain, but then it went away. And he was trying to explain what they were doing. But the biggest thing that he explained to me is when they dropped him off, he just remember waking up naked, on the ground again.
Weird.
So now he runs down to wherever there was a phone booth. Now you're going back in the 70s.
He's running around naked to a phone booth?
Yeah. So he goes into a phone booth and he gets on the payphone and he dials 0. He ain't got no change, obviously. And the operator answers and he says it's Travis. And everybody knows who he is and what's going on. And she was like, oh, my God. And she called the police and everybody, and they got him, and, they dressed him. And they interrogated him like crazy, and he tells the story of, what happened to him exactly. But there's marks on his body. So they know that something did happen. And, they're trying to find out if it's some sort of hoax and these guys did this, or if it was some criminal activity, or they really try to kill him and he's covering up for them because he doesn't want to give them up. And
but his story is that this really did happen.
Oh, his story. Listen, the way he spoke, and again, let's talk about me being on the street and a mob guy and in the street. You're used to all hustlers in every which way. Con men, this, that. This guy was legit, man. He wasn't no con. He answered questions too quickly. He didn't think about it. I always tell you I like doing live things because when they ask you a question, there is no taping. There is no, can you ask me that question again? So people know that you answer because this is your life. It's easy to answer the questions. And there is no thinking about it because it's factual, right? This is what happened. It's not a story. It's factual. It's your life. Same with Travis. When I'm asking him questions, he didn't hesitate. He's just spitting them out.
Quick on the ball.
Yeah.
Now, did he ever say where he thought they were operating on him, or like what they were trying to get, or anything? I mean, did he lose anything?
Yeah, he said they were operating.
Oh, they on his head.
Yeah. And I asked him. You should have asked him. Can you get the winning lottery ticket?
Yeah.
Listen. But he was very personable. Really, he was a good guy.
Did you ask him that? Did you ask him if he could have got?
Oh, I joked. I joked a lot. I always,
What was his answer when you asked him that?
I asked him if it's really him. Maybe he's an alien. I joked around a lot. Things that other people wouldn't probably say.
Did he laugh?
Yeah, he laughed.
Yeah.
I says, you're not going to be like in the movies when another thing comes out of your stomach, right, and starts attacking me, So he says, well, information. I said, imagine it. I said, did they put in the movies, they always put that, that needle through your eye and stuff like that. And he said to me, he says, I remember like being asleep or being awake. I remember, I remember trying to talk to somebody else. He said, I remember getting off the table and trying to run away, and they just brought me back. So he remembered certain details. Fog. It was a fog, but he remembered. So and he's very consistent. He was very consistent in his story actually when it came out. For the people that don't know, they're doing a Netflix series about this. So
yeah, they're doing Netflix. It's called Netflix, the UFO documentary, Top Secret UFO Projects, declassified. Yeah. Right here it is.
Yeah, and you know what else? I don't know if people ever read it. There was a book he had, Fire in the Sky, I believe it was called. So I read the book also. I was, I'm very interested in this.
Me too.
And my son's very interested in this. My son Matt. And listen, let's logically speak. Do we really think, with this whole universe, and light years away, and far stars are and everything, we really believe that we're the only ones that exist in this galaxy? Forget about how many other galaxies.
You got to be nuts to think that. You just have to be nuts. Yeah. And you also have to be nuts to think that there isn't other civilizations that aren't way ahead of us.
Oh, yeah.
So like when somebody says, well, how could they get here, but we can't get there? These idiots that say that kind of stuff. Well, maybe they're 300 million years ahead of us, and have the technology.
I got an answer for the idiots that say that. So let's go back to 1930. I says, in 1930, you ever think we'd get up to the moon?
No.
So because we didn't, but now we are, and it's not far off, and we're going to Mars, and we're going here, and we got satellites up, and we have cameras up in the sky that can look right down on any country. So when they say that we didn't have the technology, in this short period, look how far technology went.
In 100 years, we went, if you research it, in 100 years, our technology went through the roof. So imagine another planet, galaxy, whatever it may be, that's 300 million years ahead of us.
Oh,
of course they could get here.
Of course. And I say this, so I joke even with my son's mother and this, and I tell her, listen, you got nowhere to hide. When I see you on your next galaxy, I'm going to come get you too. Imagine telling some of my enemies, might have got away with it here. I changed my life on this galaxy. Maybe the next one it's different. Yeah, I can hit you with a laser gun.
I'm still the old John Alite on the Milky Way. We can't quite see through it yet, but we're about to be.
Yeah.
Rob, scroll down to the very bottom, and it says what he says the night of this abduction, and it's real. Right there. He says on my way home.
Yeah, it says on the way home from work with 6 other men, we encountered a large glowing object near the road. I got out, approached it, and wound up being injured by some sort of energy discharge from the craft and taken aboard. I was returned 5 days and 6 hours later. And meanwhile, my coworkers were accused of murdering me and making up the most preposterous covers
exactly what you said.
Disappearance.
I got a good memory, and I said 7 guys right at 6. But let me read something on the bottom.
Go ahead.
It says right there. Stop right there. It says every single person had passed the test 1 or more times. At the time the crew passed, the president of American Polygraph Association said that although no one tests 100%, the odds of 6 people passing that test on a single issue, the odds of there being any error in that sort of test would be over 1,000,000 to 1. You imagine that?
1,000,000 to 1.
Over 1,000,000. That's what I said.
Right there.
Yeah, this is and the thing is, these are just average guys. These aren't like scientists and doctors. These guys are loggers. This is not like anybody that's going to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, especially the intelligent guys that from CIA and FBI and NSA and whoever else is questioning them. It's impossible. I'm in the criminal world my whole life prior. Guys break. He says, and especially under that kind of scrutiny, under that kind of pressure, these are everyday guys. There's no way, because they were really scrutinized and pressured because the government didn't really know what the hell was what they were up to. So now you're screwing around with the national security of this country. So this is something serious. So people understand when they lock these guys in rooms and question them, and question them and then re-question them. And they didn't let, so the people do know, they didn't let him out. They kept him for a couple of days. So, this didn't stop. This was on 1 hour and let him go. And this wasn't now when, you could lawyer up. And that wasn't happening back in 75. These guys were under extreme pressure and scrutiny. And when I talked to them, you could tell the guys, I've been around, street guys my whole life. You know when someone's throwing a game and he's a con man. This guy was just completely straightforward out there. It was amazing to sit with him and really talk to him. And I swear I wanted to take him home like a kid wants to take home a dog, a little puppy, and you want to question him.
Yeah, just ask him some more.
It's crazy, yeah.
So give me some of the other questions that you asked them.
I asked him what they were dressed like, what they were wearing.
What did he say?
He said they were wearing like a shiny, and I said, was it their own body? And he says, I don't think so. He says, I think it was a layer over their body. And he said they had the big eyes like we always hear.
Did he?
Yeah. And he was, I was asking him how the ship looked, and he said the ship looked like it was like forever, like it was just
never ending.
Yeah, never ending long.
So when you're sitting with him, and like you said, you're a street guy, you've lived that life. What were you at 3-4 hours? You were talking.
Oh, about 4 hours, but and you know what I'm looking for his movement when I'm talking to him.
Body language.
Body language. I'm looking at his hands, and he wasn't. He was very his hands were down. He was like, he's a matter of fact kind of guy. In other words. He reminds me of a typical, just a regular beer drinking guy that comes to the local bar. He's not that guy that's sipping martinis and a fast talk, a banker or salesman or stockbroker. These guys are all slick the way they talk and act, and that's not him. He's just a typical 9-to-5 guy.
So he was just like calm, cool, and relaxed.
Yeah,
and
very
asked him a question.
Yeah,
like,
very laid back. Yeah.
Hey, they came and they got me, and they put me in this thing. They cut some holes in my head.
Yeah.
Like no big deal.
Right, that very humble.
Yeah.
He was humble, but I'm telling you, he was all full of fog a little bit. And I said it after to JohnRicciuti. I says, man, he's a nice guy, but he seems like they were drilling in his head for a while. I'm sorry, Travis, but it's the truth. I says, I wonder if this was his personality before I met him or after this incident, if somebody ever said that to him.
It would have to be after, right?
I listen, he just seemed like he's a little out.
But he might have been like you said, he might have always been like that. Some people are kind of just cloudy.
Yeah. I joked around too when I asked him was there any hot aliens you can
What he say?
Yeah, he laughed. I said, I wonder what it is. I says, you fool around with different women in different countries, different areas. I wonder what that alien's like. So I made light of it like I always do. I'm always joking.
Did he say how many that there were?
No, I didn't ask him.
How could you not ask him?
I don't remember if I asked him how many were, but for some reason I remember him I remember in my own mind, there was 6 or 7 in that room with him, aliens, and there was other bodies though on tables next to him. He did tell me that. So I think there was a handful of bodies also in there. But as far as how many, I didn't say was there 100 on the ship. I didn't ask any of that.
Now,
I was wondering what they were eating and stuff. I did ask those questions. I wonder what a Martian martini would be or something. Actually, if I open another club, we're going to call it a Martian martini. That's a good concept.
When you asked him what he ate, what about eating?
He said he had McDonald's, a cheeseburger, Big Mac. No.
Get the heck out of here. I almost believe that.
He didn't eat anything. He doesn't remember eating anything.
Now, why do you think... if you look at Bob Lazar, everything with him happened in the 70s. Yeah. This guy, the 70s. There's another guy, I forget his name, 70s. Why do you think this is all coming out now? Now, I know that our former president, he kind of opened up the Space Force.
Yeah.
He started that up again because it was dead prior. I mean, we were pretty much dead in the water other than private companies like Elon Musk and then Bezos trying to compete with Elon and, the whole thing. Why do you think now it's all coming out? Do you think it's because Bob Lazar came out with a documentary and let out?
Well, I think that, and I think a lot of government officials before, there was pilots that didn't want to say, hey, I seen a UFO next to our airplane we're flying, commercial airlines, because then they'll think they're crazy and they'll ground them. And back then it wasn't okay to say it. And now they're coming out and saying it. And then, when you have a Navy warship and you have a commander officer, and they showed, I don't remember there was a 6 or 7 or 8 UFOs around our Navy ship just recently.
No.
And one of them took a straight dive into the water and disappeared. It's all on radar. So it was captured on radar. There was photos of it, and that's just recent. So when you have this coming from an official, Navy ship with commanders and officers that are swearing to it, it's not, like, well, nobody's seen it. It's on our radar. So and these ships were maneuvering. There was a cluster of them, of UFOs circling around. Now you're on the Navy radar. You're seeing it, and they're snapping away pictures. How do you account for that? Is that possible? The technology no other country has. We know, just like they know what we have, we know what they have. Basic technology. This isn't Russia or China or any other country that has the mobility to do that with a ship. So when you see a ship diving into the ocean, what is that? It didn't crash. It was maneuvered down. And you have the other cluster of ships circling around.
See if you can find that. So that's crazy. But so you think that the reason that they're coming out with all this now is because they're not afraid? Whereas before they were afraid, like you said, they would get grounded.
Well, you get grounded.
Or you get caught in a nutcase.
You have astronauts that made statements.
Yeah.
That they seen different things. You had somebody that just took they were coming back from the trip to Mars just recently. And I believe, I think they were coming in through New Mexico. And somebody was in Switzerland. And if you look that up, and they took pictures from Switzerland and seen something, and they're trying to understand what that was, because it also looked like a saucer of some sort with lights. And they're saying, well, maybe it was a star and it was moving. So they proved it was moving. And, these are the things that, are being brought forward now.
Is that it right there, Rob?
Let me see if I can refresh it.
If you could put in on through...
Right there. Is that it?
If you put in naval sightings, recent naval sightings, cluster of UFOs.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, try filming what appears to pyramid-shaped UFOs that been across the night sky.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the one, but there's several.
Yeah, there's so many of them now.
But, now, like I said, if you have an everyday farmer that claims they've seen a UFO, it's not taken seriously. Taken like, this guy's, maybe he was drinking too much, right? Or maybe the guy's a little out there. But when you hear, people in our armed forces making these statements, when you hear secretaries of defense in the UK who are high-ranking government positions are coming out and saying these things, people are going to respect their opinion a little more. And then when you have people that are coming out, pilots, that know what flying objects are because this is what they do for a living every day, and they're professional at what they do, and they're saying they've seen something that could never mimic one of our aircraft. So it has a lot more credence. And this is why I think a lot of people coming out, because now you're not looked at as a nut. You're not going to say, this guy's nuts. Don't let him fly anymore. So.
Yeah, because now it's kind of like we already know. Just tell us in a way. So you don't need to be so afraid of losing your job or whatever it may be. And maybe that's why they're coming out so much. I personally think they're coming out because they're not afraid anymore. And because whether it was Bob Lazar or whoever the first one was to come out and really lay out the details, now that opened the book for the rest of the people to come out.
Well, you got Musk, who's the richest billionaire in this country right now, right around the world, maybe even. So he's trying to develop things for space for a reason. Now he has the money, he has resources of scientists, so he knows and he believes the information he's getting is real for him to have the interest to get to all the planets the way he does. So I believe if somebody had the ability to ask him questions, what makes you believe and waste tons of money, billions of dollars in space research? Why are you doing it? What are you looking for? What's your objective? And his objective is what most of our objectives are, whether you're an everyday citizen, whether you're a scientist, we all are curious what's beyond this planet, what's beyond the universe, what's beyond the next galaxy. And if you believe that we're the only ones in this universe and other galaxies, you got to be crazy, because it's just not realistic, because there's billions of stars and eternity out there. So what makes us believe we're the only ones? Just because our technology isn't there yet. But in the last 100 years, look at the difference in technology.
Yeah.
So in 100 years, who knows what we're going to find out in the next 50.
And you know what's like a lot of these things that, like this microphone that we're talking into, this could have been reverse engineered by a UFO or a spacecraft. Do you realize that?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, you know what we got to worry about is I hope if you get in trouble for some of these inmates, that jail on Mars isn't worse than here. Because the United States jail is pretty bad.
I don't know,
they don't want to let you out.
They might let that radiation in, man. That would definitely not be good.
Yeah.
Now, when you're sitting with Travis, did you ask him what he thought, like, the future holds? Any questions like that?
Yeah, I did. I asked him. I says, why didn't you guys? I asked him about his future. What do you want? He wasn't, really keen on getting out there. He's not that guy. He's very mellow. He's very laid back. He wasn't looking for the dollar bill. And I said that. Why'd you wait so long to come out? And he says, I didn't. I just wanted to live a private life. They actually moved away from the town because they didn't want the notoriety. Somebody that wants the notoriety stays there because he's famous. Everywhere he goes, it's a small area. Everybody's, talking to him. And that wasn't him and a lot of the guys that he was friends with. They weren't like that. They didn't look for that. You see, the other guys, they didn't try to sell books. And, over the years, they could have did all that. They really didn't want to be bothered with it. One of them actually had bad anxiety because of it. He didn't want to be bothered at all. So,
I mean, do you think in our lifetime we'll see anything? Like actually see something?
Oh, I think so.
Do you really?
I think so, yeah. I'm out every day with my telescope and my binoculars and yeah.
So you definitely believe in UFOs.
Oh, yeah.
You definitely believe in aliens.
Yeah, and I definitely want to have sex with a UFO.
Just to see what it's like.
I see what's up.
Well, you can really imagine how much you could come back and brag.
Well, if somebody told you can eat a cheeseburger every day and then they got a new one, you're not going to test it out if you eat at McDonald's. You just want to see what's up with it. I says, I want to see what this world's about. Imagine having a little alien that could think everything for you. You tell him, hey, son, tell me what that lottery number is this week.
Does AI worry you at all? Artificial intelligence?
No.
It doesn't worry you?
No.
Elon Musk is scared to death of that.
Yeah, I know he is. But no, not at all. I listen, I think what's, I'm a guy that really is religious, spiritual, believe in God, and I believe that everything's predestined for a reason. And I always say this. I think my life, people say, well, you feel bad for all the things if you could do it again. You can't do it again. I wouldn't choose the same path, obviously. I'm always talking about, hard work and education. But I believe that I was meant to go through what I'm going through to help other people. So in that light, I think we were talking about this the other day. Cars go by and they hit somebody and kill somebody, but that split little second, if something different happened, if somebody went into a store and got delayed at the counter for half a second before they got in the car, they wouldn't have gotten to that accident and died. If somebody didn't get delayed, maybe he would have died and he didn't. He missed that accident. Everything is timing in this world. And whatever that timing is for all of us, that clock's ticking, I think there's a reason for it somewhere. I mean, it's kind of crazy for us to believe we're just sitting here and, for no reason, and we just go through generation after generation without a bigger picture to it.
And my last question for you, and I know you're a guy and everything else. Now, if you believe this, if you believe in all in this, that kind of kills the religious side.
Well, I don't think that deep about it. So, is there a religious side and is there a scientific side? A lot of scientists before thought of different things. They keep changing what they think, right? So things were proven wrong on both sides. So who knows? We didn't just plop here one day, and so you hear different things, right? Evolution, seeds, mushrooms. Right.
I think it's mushrooms.
Okay, you didn't come here with just two people and they started having consensual sex, and then it just went to 4 and went to 8 and went to 10. I don't believe that. And then it could be. People talk about, well, maybe it was from another, planet that put us
off,
here.
Yeah.
Right. And then, they developed us in a scientific, project, say. But who developed them then? Where'd they come from then? So you can do this all day, and drive yourself crazy. It's eerie, but it's always also interesting.
So we had Robert Beto in here,
right,
who works with Elon Musk,
yes,
and he developed a thing that can go at the speed of light.
So I blame you. Why didn't you get us the Tesla stock before it hit 1,000? It went up to 1,300, came back to 1,100.
That's my fault.
It's my fault.
I was on vacation. But Beto came in, and he said, "This sticks in my head." And this is a guy who developed the thing can go the speed of light.
Yeah.
The problem is the matter, like we were talking about the other day. And the thing he said that was amazing, he said, the universe never begins and it never ends.
Yeah. Well, think about this. We are energy, right?
Yeah.
Energy doesn't dissipate. We may die, but our energy doesn't.
Thank you. Who says that all the time?
That sounds like Tommy to the T.
And I think we should end it at that.
We will end at that one.
And we'll be back. We're going to do several parts on UFOs.
Oh,
and
yes,
things.
we are.
We have a lot of surprises for everybody with this exactly this topic and what's coming and what information we got. And we're going to go through about 10 of these shows.
Thank you for joining us again.
Thanks, everybody.
One of many UFO alien episodes.
I'm waiting for my alien wife. See you guys.
New York City.